Pandemonium Reigns.
Well, that sucked. This is Pandemonium Reigns. I'm Dan. He's Mike. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us. Thank you for letting us tickle your ears. Feels like it's been a minute since we've gotten to get together. But here's how it goes. Tennessee goes up to Columbia, Missouri, and gets bent over, basically. The best way and nicest way I know to put it. A lot of people want to blame Joe. I am not one of them. I think that is hilarious.
It was laughable.
Yeah, and I really want to start the whole thing off with that is laughable, and the fact of let's just run Nico from here on out. The season's over. Womp, womp, womp. Tell me you've never played this game without telling me you've never played this game. I mean, one more chance to put on pads again. I would pay a lot of money to do that. Anyway, thoughts?
Not on Joe. Not his best game. Not on Joe though. Here's what basically where I'm at. You'd better be bringing in some Nikos in terms of how they rank at the time of his signing and what we think of him right now at the linebacker and defensive back positions. Because it ain't working with the guys we've got. Keenan Pili's loss, huge at this point. And, I don't think you and I have talked about that in a minute. And he's easy to forget about because we saw him for like 12 minutes as a ball.
Mm-hmm.
I think the loss of him has been huge in Tennessee's losses. And he would have contributed plenty in the wins. But look, man, Herring ain't it right now. Beasley, not the same guy that we've – it's unfortunate, I think, for Aaron Beasley that he went off against Clemson. And, Clemson at that time was a lot better of a thought play where you thought about them a lot better than you do right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he went off in that game. He was everywhere.
Mm.
And you saw great effort from him last year in moments like South Carolina when there was no great effort on the defense elsewhere. Not been a great senior year for him, I'm going to say. Losing Kamal Hadden has sucked. I don't think you beat Alabama if he played 4 healthy quarters because he went out in that game. I don't think you beat Missouri because you couldn't give up less than 8 yards and 6 yards on first down.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't stop the running back on the ground or through the air. Sorry performance, man. Offense included for sure. But look, it's weird that I don't have more rage towards the offense when they put up 7 points, but it was really dumb mistakes. Like 2 really costly fumbles, and I think it was a pretty perfect hit on Jalen Wright when he got hit and fumbled going into half.
Yeah, and
I don't know who to blame on the Dylan Sampson Joe Milton exchange. I think that's why you don't run a play action fake on every pass play. Is my take right now. Joe,
you're looking at one play in 3 years of Heupel being the volunteer head coach, and it's the first time we've ran into that.
Yeah, we ran into that during the Pruitt or the Butch era with a young back. I can't remember who it was.
2016 at South Carolina, Josh Dobbs, Carlin Filzame.
I just now got your reference that you text me in this moment because that's so far gone from my memory at this point. Look, you need to start getting some Nikos 4 and 5 stars at the linebacker and the defensive back positions. And I need to stop seeing the veterans out there if this is what I'm going to get out of them.
Yeah, that's fair. I think there's some difficulty in pinpointing the problem or who the issue was just because of the way that the whole thing unfolded. I mean, you had 3 snaps in the first quarter. Like you make a defensive play, right? They drive, you make a defensive play, you turn around and go 3 and out. And that's probably the most costly 3 and out in hindsight I think I've ever come across because they're allowed now to go full field, chew clock. They're getting yards in chunks by like 5 and 6 yards a pop, and they're just moving down the field. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Reflective of the 7 points and the offensive woes. You never really got a chance from the get anything going. I mean, look at UConn, second play from scrimmage, we house it. Kentucky, first drive, I don't remember, 52-yard touchdown somewhere in there. Now you're going to argue and say, well, that's the same thing, right? Like there wasn't many plays. Well, you're a lot more momentum, a lot more like energy, a lot more mojo. I mean, they're just moving. You make a pick, you flip the field. I think you advance it across the 50, if I remember right. But you go 3 and out, and you pin them deep, and they drive the field. Boom, first quarter's over. So then on out. So
and I think we returned the pick to like the 45-ish.
Yeah.
Or our we were facing 4th and 1 or 2 at their 45, and we didn't go for it. I mean, tell me a time we've done that. I'm not saying anything other than that's different and that's unusual.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not saying that's why you lost the game. I'm not saying. Look, I don't think it was the best game that it's among the worst games I think we've called offensively, but that's not why we lost the game. Everything still falls on the team effort. I
don't know that I totally agree with that. I mean, some people are saying that as well, and they're partnering with that with, Joe. I don't hate what we called. I just think it was poor execution everywhere. It was poor.
I think that's very fair. I do think that I think that's fair. I think it goes both ways to an extent. Like let me say this, like Joe's pick 6. Okay. How many freaking slants did we run from that side? First of all, that's not a huge part of our offense usually. I mean, we do it. But and then we turn around and we run that play 10 times. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was there.
Get picked up, and it was there. It was there. That's fair.
I mean, football is. I mean, it's like, let's not turn into rocket science. You take what they give you, and they kept providing that, so we kept taking it. I have no issue. Run it till they stop it.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair.
And you know what? The one touchdown that Joe threw to Dante, he's taking a lot of heat for that, dude. He put it up where Dante could make a play. What else do you want this guy to do? Listen, he's not. I'm not going to say he's not good, but he's not bad. I mean,
no.
I mean, his performance was good enough to win that game. As far as everybody else goes, man, I don't know. And I'm not going to pin that whole thing on Jalen Wright either, because I'm with you. I just think it was the helmet on the ball, man. It's just hard.
He kind of got sandwiched. I mean, he kind of got sandwiched, and it was either a shoulder pad or a helmet on the ball. Yeah, and that's the first fumble he's lost all year.
Sure.
I mean, it happens. That's part of the game.
Yeah, I think I'm going to look at the defense as a whole and point my finger and say, you as a unit, you just couldn't get off the field. You couldn't.
They couldn't get off the field.
You couldn't do it. You couldn't create pressure. You couldn't cover. It felt a lot like South Carolina last year, where they just marched up and down on you, and you just let it happen.
Yeah, and really the only difference is that the difference really is the play calling to me. Now, granted, you held Missouri to a lot less at half than you probably held South Carolina at half in that game last year.
Mm-hmm.
But if Missouri's MO was running the ball, throwing the ball with Spencer Rattler or somebody else, that's Brady's fine, Cook is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if they were much more pass happy, it would have probably looked exactly like that, minus the 35 or 38 that Tennessee scored in that game last year.
Yeah.
But their thing is getting the ball to Schrader and Burden and running it with Cook, and then doing whatever else in between. You nailed it. They copied and pasted Florida's short game, really the play action stuff coming across the line of scrimmage or 5 yards deep, and then the ridiculous yardage that they got consistently, stretching the ball left and right.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Running it to the short side of the field. I mean, I don't know. That was different. That was really different in the worst way possible from the front seven.
I think so. Now that you mentioned it, I think that's one of the more frustrating things for me, because we were defending power and stretch zone, stretch zone and power. They'd pass it around them. Things would fail. Find Schrader. And it wasn't even a Luther Burden deal. Like, he had 4 catches and he had one rush. I mean, he wasn't even really.
No. I'm
not even going to say he was much of like a distraction.
No. And look, he had a touchdown, but that was a brilliant play. Like,
sure.
Anybody, Weiss or any of those guys, Cooper could have scored on that play.
Yeah.
Schrader could have scored on that play, and he did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Burden was not a problem. It was actually the simplest of things, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the weird sequence hang on, it's not even sequence events. It's the weird plays like here and there where you have an opportunity to get a safety and he sneaks out of that stuff.
Yeah.
You get him into, let's see, 2 3rd and long situations in my head, and you allow him to dance around and find an open body. The lack of points before half, which are the fumble and then allowing them to turn around. And you allow them to do that. You allow them to do that by putting the ball on the ground. I mean,
which tells me you expect them to run the clock out. That was the expectation.
I guess.
And that's
I don't know, man.
Terrible.
I don't know, man.
Terrible.
I don't know, man. A lot of people are out on Banks. I don't know how I feel about that either, because I have a hard time saying that we got outcoached. I have a hard time saying this. Outplayed, absolutely 100%. Sometimes it's hard to tell, if effort's being given or not. I think that was clear as day.
But
outcoached, man. I mean, there's only so much that Tim Banks can do. Like, hey, I mean, we're dialing stuff up, and you're just not doing it. So, I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm frustrated because 9-3 was right there on the table, which was a meeting of expectation, right? And it came from a Mizzou who came out of freaking nowhere on this year. An Eli Drinkwitz, who we thought, I remember talking about this going into the season, like, is the dude going to last, right? Is he going to have his job come into the year? Yeah. Like, well, he outlasted Jimbo, and he's outlasted Will Arnett in year 1. Yeah. So I think that's what frustrates me. I think what frustrates me also is just the piss poor effort. I have 0 issues with Joe. I have 0 issues with calling or play calls, schematics. I don't care what you call. You don't try. That's irrelevant.
Yeah. And it's, to me, we've got to adapt when a game is going that way, I think. And again, it's been a weird year because, we've had so few examples of games or even halves or quarters where everything's clicked, running and passing. Yeah. I'd probably say Kentucky is probably your best thing you can point to, where Joe was pretty dang good. Yeah. Play calls were pretty good. Obviously, run game was great. You got to have a change up or a curveball. I feel like that you can throw out in those moments. Offensive line concerns for me are only growing stronger. I mean, 2024 is looking ominous at this point with what we're going to have at the offensive line. And it sucks because I text you about this. Tennessee gets the last laugh, at least on the every year of the South Carolina series, and you give that to Missouri. You give them great satisfaction and a 29-point beatdown. 29 points. And what really gets me too is I feel like Missouri just kind of heated up to this point of the year. They did beat Kansas State. Credit to them for that. But I mean, it's been the opponents outside of the SEC and even their SEC slate until Georgia and us back to back. Not great. And now they're going to turn around and they're going to lose Schrader, but they're going to bring back Burden. They're going to bring back Cook. Why can't they go get in the portal the guys that they got this year in Weiss and Mookie Cooper, whoever, Dude,
they're going to be a hot team in the portal.
They're going to be a hot team. And their schedule next year is Arkansas, Auburn, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt at home, Alabama, Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Texas A&M on the road. I mean, there's one surefire loss in that as of right now, being Alabama, that I would say because it's at Alabama. But it ticks me off that you give them the last laugh in the, again, every year series. It's been back and forth since they joined the conference to begin with.
The series is now tied.
It is tied. It's been streaky, is what I'll say.
Gotcha.
It's not been,
Well, I was just giving you credit for saying how it's gone back and forth. Like, well, you nailed that because it's tied.
Yeah. It's been a series of streaks. They started off with a few before Tennessee ever beat them, and they just can't. Tennessee just can't permanently put a team like this below them or beneath them. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's another frustrating point. Like, advance, man. Advance is a program.
That's actually in hindsight a huge thing for. I mean, all of the big things notwithstanding in the South Carolina game last year, keep them below you. You are better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think you're better than Missouri. You're certainly better than 29-point beatdown at Missouri if you're not better than that team.
I mean, roster wise, you're better.
Yeah.
So what was that?
Exactly.
I think
exactly.
And I think that's the frustration that's causing so much of our fan base to act out and, oh, it's Joe, oh, it's Heupel, oh, it's bad. Anyway, I'll say this, man. Credit to them. Credit to them.
Major credit to them.
I will say credit to me also because I said there's now a formula out against us, and it's not rocket science. Put long drives together. Don't turn it over. Don't give our offense a chance to get going. The best way to not allow our offensive scores to keep them on the sideline. And dude, they just kept putting drives together. And I'll say this for sure. That is definitely, without a doubt, the second best team in the East.
This year, there is no doubt, no questioning it. Wouldn't mind seeing that Missouri-Georgia game this year at Missouri. Who knows?
Yeah.
Might have been able to play them tougher. I don't know. You just don't know what you're going to get out of Georgia sometimes to start games, and it can make things tricky.
Yeah.
They are no doubt right now the second best team in the league. Another thing
in the league or the division.
Sorry, the division. Yeah, that's my bad. Another credit to them is you don't usually see coaches that struggle to hand over the play calling actually turn around and make it. Now, they're 8-2 at this point.
Yeah.
So they've got Florida left. They've got Arkansas left.
They're going 10-2
games. They should absolutely go 10-2. That's wonderful. That's 1 year though. That's like one really strong year from Drinkwitz. So it's not over. It's not like he's going to go start winning the SEC year in year out. But you don't usually see coaches that struggle to hand over the play calling duties succeed on as far as a lot of examples that I can think of. So credit to him on that, man.
Yeah.
What is it? Kirby Moore? Is it Kellen Moore's younger brother? Is that what it is?
Sure. Couldn't tell you.
Maybe
and that's another thing that freaking bothers me about this loss is like, where did they come from? It's, you know what? This is going to suck to say, but they're the 2023 Tennessee from last year. I mean,
yeah.
Playing with their hair on fire, scoring at will. I mean, good for them. And they had a better performance in Athens than we did. So credit to them.
Tennessee ain't losing to Georgia by 9, so credit to them on both fronts.
Credit to them. Man, where was I going to go with that? Wow, that's terrible podcasting. Terrible podcasting.
Aging is real.
Yeah. So anyway, all that said, credit to Mizzou. I mean, they're now 11.5-point favorites over Florida. The people who are the Tennessee fans who are saying, we still got a chance to be 9-3 to beat Georgia. You're lost. This team is not beating Georgia. You have lost your mind. And Georgia does this thing.
I don't even want to preview the game.
Oh, I mean,
I don't even want to preview the game. Y'all cool if we don't preview the game?
I mean, hit like if you don't want us to.
There we go.
Anyway, I'm not going to go down the what if road. Just frustrating, man. Really, really disappointing. Really frustrating. Let's talk about Banks, Heupel. That's where I wanted to go. I asked you a question over the weekend. Are we to the place where the conference has figured Heupel out? Because Missouri just did this thing where they kind of sat high. They sat safeties high. They're not going to allow for a deep shot. And they were going to be quick to come down. I'm worried that Missouri has put a formula out there to really stop this offense, no matter if it's Joe, Nico, Hendon. Where are you at on the Heupel offense continuing to find success in this conference?
Well, and I'm not outright. How can I say this? Because I appreciate what we've gotten from Joe down the stretch. Let's say, I don't know, just down the stretch, I appreciate what we've gotten from Joe. I just think there's more consistency, even if it's like, he's had games where he's had so few incompletions, but he's chosen like the hardest route to have success. I just think there's a better path, and I'm hoping it. I mean, I'm hoping it's Nico. I'm really hopeful for the guy. I'm not to the point where I'm going to say that the conference has figured this out. I mean, look, I do think the formula's out there, but it's still like, yeah, Florida did it some. Alabama, I don't even know what happened in the second half because you had that lead and then you didn't. You know, even in games where we haven't been able to pass the ball, we've ran for 230, 250, you name it. I'm not to the point where I'm going to say the conference has figured it out because of the huge drop off with personnel and really three guys, Hendon, Hyatt, and Tillman. You know, I think we undervalued them, which is crazy because of what they did. But I think we undervalued them in the long scope of things. I'm not giving the staff or the team, certainly the team, because I'm with you on the getting outplayed more than outcoached front. But I think we undervalued those guys. We undervalued Darnell Wright for sure. Jerome Carvin. I don't think I can say that we've been figured out until we see that form, whether it's the formula, whether it's a perfectly awful storm in Columbia. Mm-hmm. Until I see that play out with some consistency, I don't think I'm going to say that we've been figured out.
That's fair. I mean, that's fair. We've talked, I'm going to set you up for another question, tell you about one of our sponsors, so give you some time to think about this. So we've talked a little bit about, you know, how Dobbs covered a multitude of sins for Butch. So is it possible, or what are your thoughts on Hendon covering a multitude of sins for Heupel? And give me your thoughts on Tim Banks while you meditate on that. Let me go ahead and tell you about our sponsors. I want to tell you about Lauren Foster, proud sponsor of the Pandemonium Reigns podcast. Been going strong in the real estate business since 2018. That's 5 years if you're doing math. Servicing the entire state of Georgia, but focusing on North Georgia, the Lake Lanier area, Forsyth, Hall, and Dawson County. She's a member of the KWC $1 Million Club. That means she's got over $1 million in sales, which means that she's really good at what she does, which means she's really good at getting you into your dream home. So make sure if you're in the market in the North Georgia area, maybe she'll go up to the Ringgold, listeners. Who knows? More than a pretty face. Just telling you. Lauren Foster 1 at KW.com. That's Lauren Foster 1 at KW.com. Shoot her an email. Let her know that the boys at Pandemonium Reigns sent you. Talk to me. Hendon Hooker. All right.
If you ask me, is Hendon Hooker Dobbsing the Jones offense, right? You know, last year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go like 85-15 no. 85% no, he's not. 15 maybe he is.
Okay.
Because you know, if you ask me, and if you ask me specific to 2022, did Jalen Hyatt do that? I might go 70-30 or 75-25 because nobody expected him to do what he did. Let's just, you know, we know this. Nobody expected him to be the Biletnikoff winner. But a few issues for me with was he that Hendon, that is. He wasn't the starter. And look, Dobbs had seasons where he wasn't the starter and then he finished as a starter. But
that's cause for my concern that he did not win the job, right? That they did not catch that, right?
Okay.
That's cause for my concern.
It's on the flip side for me. And I believe that Dobbs was a gamer. You know, I believe that he got outperformed in practice like we were told for so long. I could see Hendon being outperformed in practice while everything was new in spring practice, fall camp, early season. I could see Hendon being outperformed in practice.
Didn't he beat Joe there? Wasn't he there before Joe?
He was, but I mean, you know, when did it click for both of them? You know, and that's maybe a question that goes into this year for Joe. You know, when did it click? When did he start playing maybe his best form of football? But
has it clicked?
I think it has. I do think it has. He's had moments where he's been pretty good and moments where he's not. But
well, that one's going to be in question for me. But just because he's been able to produce and do some things well doesn't mean he's got the offense going at all 8 cylinders.
That's fair. That is absolutely fair. But yeah, I mean, for still me, for Hendon, it's mostly a no, a pretty strong no. You know, I almost said because look at what Hendon was in the other offense at VT, but there's nothing you can look at at the same time for Dobbs.
There's not enough there.
And also, let me say this: Hendon is obviously has done things that Joe still hasn't done, and Joe, in my eyes, could never do. But the offense to me is still not as bad as what it was at times, schematic wise, play call wise, you name it, during the Bajakian, DeBoard, those offenses at times. I mean, it was literally Dobbs kind of doing what he did on Sunday for the Vikings, just pulling one out of the hat at times, saving it that way, and not just saving it by, okay, here's what the numbers say to do, hucking it, it's there. Those are pretty brilliant designs at times that we've got now. And I can't name many plays for the Butch era where we just designed a perfect play and nailed it for 6 or something,
I think my argument is Hendon was capable. Two things come to my mind that Hendon was capable of doing that Joe is not. One, Hendon was just a gamer, okay? A great 100%. Presence, great feel for the game, situational awareness, okay? So just a flat-out gamer, all right? More than a quarterback. 2, he could throw you open. Joe doesn't throw you open.
No.
Joe takes what's there.
Yeah, he does.
And I think some of that. So one touchdown comes to mind against Bama last year. I think it was his 4th touchdown to Hyatt. He puts the ball a hair inside, pushing it away from the defender, allowing it to hit Hyatt in a different stride. I imagine that ball, if you guys can imagine which one I'm talking about, would probably have been outside shoulder. I think Hendon intentionally throws that inside. So just stuff like that. Joe's not doing that. And Joe's not going to do that.
No.
I think we know what we got with Joe at this point. And that's what concerns me about Georgia, because you got to have a gamer to beat somebody like Georgia. And don't be surprised when he comes out and this thing is over and he's 14 for 30. Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not going to say that Hooker, has covered all the sins for Heupel and things are now starting to come out. But I do think that Hooker, how can I word this? Pushed Heupel's ceiling, if that makes sense.
That's very, very fair, especially, again, when you pair him with what Hyatt gave you in 2022, because, again, nobody expected that. Before and after Tillman's injury, it was, where's Tillman? I'm throwing it to Tillman.
Yeah.
That was the thing. Now, again, I don't know if that's if that was a Hendon issue or if that was like hey, he's our guy. I don't know. I don't know what that was. And it's just so evident that we don't have either one of those guys, Hyatt or Tillman, right now. I think another thing, I'll get to Banks in just a second.
Okay.
But staying on the offense for just a moment, the end of the season needs to get here. I don't, look, Vanderbilt, who cares? Beat Georgia, I'm elated. It's not happening. Vanderbilt, I don't care. Bowl game, it's probably going to suck after Saturday. What I mean is you do have to find some adaptations. And I don't know if this is all 100% exclusively Heupel, if this is like 90-10 Heupel, Halsley. I don't know what it is. You've got to find some adaptations for just the same thing, throwing it at the wall. Does it stick? If not, we're going to hand it off and hope the run game carries us to a win, is kind of the way I feel right now. And okay. I don't think those things happen in season is why I say the season, just get it over with.
Yeah. And that's probably a question I should have proposed. What's Halsey's involvement in this? I mean, I just put a hillbilly twist on his name. I mean, maybe. But I mean, we've complained a lot about offensive play calling. At the end of the day, that's on Heupel because it's coming through his ears, and he's got the option to say no, we're not doing that, and that's what concerns me with Heupel, because this was Butch's downfall. Hiring the buddies, hiring from within, not necessarily the best option. Which a double-edged sword, I guess. Thankful that Heupel wants to do that and that he wants to be good to guys. I think that speaks to the type of person he is and the culture that he wants to have, but. I don't know. As far as Vanderbilt goes, you better win 70-0. You better win 63-0, something like that. You better do something to what similar to what you did last year. This is the last ride in Neyland for a ton of these guys.
Yep.
We are so senior heavy. So I'm really interested in Tennessee Vanderbilt. I want to see some dominance, man. I want to see, a flexing of muscles. And as far as the Georgia game goes, just don't roll over on us. Just don't do this thing that you did last week. If you come out flat, I'm going to have more hypo questions.
There you go. That's very fair.
I'm going to have way more hypo questions. So what you're telling me is we now have an inability to pick ourselves up off the mat.
Yep.
So we're going to have to do something about that. But anyway.
Absolutely.
Frustrating loss. 9-3 again was on the table. Mizzou separates us, moves us from 9-3 to what is a certain 8-4, unless, and we've seen this movie, 2016. We've seen this movie. You got something to play for, and you wet the bed. And well, the listeners are going to go, well, we're not playing for the Sugar Bowl. Well, you know what? You're playing for a better bowl. I mean, the Outback is on the table. The Belk is potentially on the table. Of course, a 7-5 team can also grab that. Do something with yourself, man. I can't. I hate the. Well, let's just run Nico now. Let's just go with Nico because we're going to end up in the music crap bowl. I'm like, for some of these guys, this is it. And if I'm playing at that level, that's probably it for me. And I'm going, man, give me a bowl, man. I don't care. Give me one chance to do this with these guys. So I think it's a really selfish thing to say from the fan base. Like, shut up. Like stop that mess. And I'm not even necessarily pointing at you because you say stuff that you don't mean when you're mad. So,
hey, let me also say. Still, before I get to Tim Banks, I've never handled a loss so well real time. Never.
Yeah, you did well.
The therapy of the podcast is working. Okay. Thank y'all for that. But I've never handled a loss so well. And look, if we get to a bowl game and if it's straight garbage, look, I want to win the bowl game. I ain't saying I'm going to lose it, but split it 50-50, Joe and Nico or something, because reps have to be dedicated at some point. Yeah. I want Joe and any senior on this team to get all the reps they want, but at some point Heupel has to say, this is the program, and we got to look out for the program.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure.
Tim Banks. I'm still mostly, and now this one's a whole lot closer. I was like, 85-15 on Hendon covered up for Heupel. I'm like 55-45 on where I stand on Banks. I'm not certain. The defense took a lot of positive steps early in the season, man. And it's almost like, because I think you can say this about the Kentucky game. Now, we were much better against the run against Kentucky, but it's like we caught an absolute virus at halftime in Tuscaloosa. I mean, something that we've not gotten out of our system to this point. UConn doesn't count because they're UConn. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And Missouri was literally just a crap turd cherry on top of that pie. You know what I mean? That's what that was. I've been done with Willie Martinez. I need to see some different things because, like you talked about with Halsley being Heupel's buddy and someone that he's known for a long time, same deal for Martinez. He was with him at UCF. I'm close to that point. I'm not as done with Brian John Marie because I mean, at the end of the day, you're talking about Elijah Herring, you're talking about Caleb Perry, and then freshmen after Aaron Beasley. Personnel still has a long jump to make, but we've seen much better football out of this team. So I'm not going to go and give them a pass or anything like that.
John Marie shouldn't be in this conversation because this is really the first time we've mentioned his name because outside of this last weekend, linebacker unit has been legit.
That's fair. That's totally fair. I think it does have to take a big step in 2024 for you to have a chance to do better than 8-4, 9-3.
Yeah.
Same deal for the secondaries and for the secondary in Martinez because I'm just to this point. And then I think 2024 is a make it or break it year for Banks. I mean, it's hard to convince me that the defensive line, when they're on, the defense is pretty good. When they're not, we're toast. And that's the case in football.
That's almost any defensive. Yeah. There you go. That's football.
That's
period.
The case in football. But I mean, this is the first year that we've gotten anywhere near this much from our defensive line, and it's kind of vanished. But we've also taken some hits there. I'm just trying to state the facts and not give anyone too much of a pass. I just think 2024 is a huge year for Banks. I'm not going to fire him right now. Probably, if I can convince Willie Martinez to retire, or see what my options might be there, I might do it. I'm doing it if it's me. But that's just where I'm at right now.
I'm with you on Martinez as well. However, I'm not as far as you, and I think you. Well, maybe you. I think a large part of our fan base is so quickly out of Martinez is because this is also his second stint here. First one being under Butch. And you know what? There were times when Martinez's tenure under Butch didn't look like what we've seen under Heupel. So you're going to have to do something with that as well. Anyway, I'm not out on Banks. I'm disappointed. Obviously, I'm disappointed, but I don't know that Banks is one that you can point to. And I mean, because if I'm Tim Banks, I'm going, what do you want me to do?
Yeah. I can't tackle.
I can't. I mean, we got to him, but we didn't bring him down for a safety. We had the chance. We had a chance to flip the game, but we didn't do it. So that's my fault. That's my Tim Banks perspective. Listen, hey, if you think you can do this better with that effort, be my guest. It's a bit of a Dabo approach.
Yes. I completely agree with you. And the only other thing I want to say for this loss for this week is I just think Heupel's not the next Urban Meyer. I don't think he's the next Butch Jones. Look at Oklahoma State this week. Look at Kansas this week. Look at Texas almost blowing that game to TCU. Look at, you name it, man. Look at James Franklin. The guy couldn't beat Michigan or Ohio State if his life depended on it.
Yeah.
I think he's somewhere. I still think he's above the middle because of what he's done at Tennessee so fast. It's time that we see some consistency on the road, especially that we see the home field product travel to the road environments.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm not trying to give the guy a major pass, but the roster does have big holes, and it is now his job to fill them quickly.
Yeah. He's good. I'm happy to have him, but he's not a national champion head coach.
He's nowhere near it right now.
And I'm not confident he can do it. I'm not confident at this moment he could do it. But I think 2024 will be very telling on that. 2024, as you said, will be very telling on Banks. We're going to learn a lot more about this coaching staff come 2024, how well they can reload, how well they can prepare, stuff like that, because we are very, very senior heavy. So anyway, with that said, we're gonna land this plane. We're gonna knock it down in 60 seconds. Want to say thank you to our sponsors, Lauren Foster. Make sure if you're out on or if you're trying to sell, make sure you give her an email. LaurenFoster1@kw.com. Again, thank you so much for hitting like and subscribe. We continue to grow. We appreciate it. This is a hobby. The way that you can pay us is just by hitting like and subscribe and telling one person about the Pandemonium Reigns podcast. Thank you so much. Just one, baby. Just tell one person. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. This loss sucked, but you make it better. We love you guys. God bless. Go Vols.
GDO.
Pandemonium Reigns.